The crystalline spires of New Harmony Station glittered like frozen lightning against the backdrop of deep space, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 nearby suns. Inside the Grand Chamber, over 2,000 representatives from the Cosmic Federation's member species gathered to celebrate their 10,000th cycle of unified rule. High Admiral Zixith of the Axoni stood at the ceremonial podium, his metallic exoskeleton polished to mirror perfection for the occasion. "Our perfect union," he proclaimed in the Federation's standard speech pattern, his vocalization crystals producing precise, measured tones, stands as testament to the superiority of logical progression. Through careful optimization and planned advancement, we had eliminated the chaos that plagued our primitive ancestors. The assembled dignitaries nodded in algorithmic synchronization. The Axoni had long since proven that emotional responses were inefficient, and the other species had gradually adopted their ways. Even the once passionate Candraxians now regulated their biochemical responses to maintain optimal diplomatic function. That's when the first alarm shattered their carefully maintained serenity. Zixith's sensor arrays registered the disruption before the audio alert reached his neural processors. His grip tightened on his ceremonial chalice, the perfectly calibrated pressure suddenly failing as his actuators spasmed in response to the impossible data flooding his systems. "Admiral," his second-in-command, Controller Val 247, transmitted directly to his neural network. Priority 1 anomaly detected in Sector 7G9. The primitive world. Earth. Zixith's voice carried a harmonic of disturbance that hadn't been heard in the Grand Chamber for over 2,000 cycles. Impossible. Their development is carefully monitored. They have barely achieved lunar colonization. The holographic displays surrounding the chamber flickered to life, showing real-time sensor data from the Federation's outer monitoring arrays. The assembled representatives watched in growing disorder as the impossible manifested before them. From behind Neptune's azure disk, a vessel emerged. But calling it merely a vessel was like calling a supernova a light show. The ship defied Federation classification protocols. Its hull simultaneously absorbed and reflected scanning beams, creating interference patterns that shouldn't exist in normal space. Energy readings fluctuated in ways that violated 12 different laws of physics the Federation had established as immutable. Analysis, Zixith demanded, his perfect posture showing the first signs of strain in 300 cycles. Controller Val 247's response came with a 0.47-second delay, and eternity in Axoni processing time. The vessel appears to be. "Admiral, our systems cannot establish a baseline. It employs multiple propulsion technologies simultaneously. The power signature suggests this cannot be correct. It suggests they have achieved quantum foam manipulation, but through means our predictive models never considered." The Candraxian ambassador, Seistal, broke protocol by speaking without recognition. "How did we miss this? Our monitoring stations were watching exactly what they wanted us to watch," interrupted Krell Warmaster Hex, their scaled skin shifting colors in agitation. "While we observed their primitive rocket tests and celebrated our superiority, they were building that." The vessel's size became apparent as it passed Europa, dwarfing the Jovian moon. Its design violated every principle of Federation shipbuilding. Where Federation ships were sleek and uniform, this human vessel bristled with what appeared to be redundant systems, a chaos of antennas, sensors, and weapon ports that offended the Axoni's sense of efficiency. They have designated it Prometheus, Controller Val 247 reported. In their mythology, Prometheus was a being who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. High Admiral Zixith's cooling systems engaged at maximum capacity as his processors struggled to calculate the implications. The humans hadn't just achieved advanced spaceflight. They had done it in ways the Federation had deemed impossible. Their ship didn't just break Federation rules. It ignored them entirely, operating on principles that suggested humanity had discovered aspects of physics the Federation had never even theorized. As the ceremonial chalice finally slipped from his grasp and shattered on the chamber floor, Zixith realized a terrible truth. The Federation's 10,000 cycles of careful, logical progression had just been upstaged by a species they had dismissed as primitive dreamers. And this was only the beginning. Captain Jack Morrison's boots clicked against the polished deck of the EBS Prometheus's bridge, each step echoing with purpose through the cathedral-like space. Unlike the sterile, automated command centers of Federation vessels, the bridge hummed with human activity. Officers called out status reports, their voices mixing with the subtle vibration of the quantum phone drives and the soft pings of analog sensors, a symphony of human and machine working in harmony. He ran his calloused hand along the brass handrail circling the command platform. The Federation would see it as primitive, decorative, even foolish. They'd never understand that the rail was also a backup power conduit, a navigation line for evacuations in total darkness, and a subtle reminder of humanity's seafaring heritage. Like everything else aboard the Prometheus, it served multiple purposes, none of them immediately obvious to outside observers. Engineering reports quantum foam density at optimal levels. Captain, Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez announced from her station, her fingers dancing across both holographic displays and physical backup controls. All systems showing green across both digital and analog boards. Morrison nodded, suppressing a smile. The Federation's observers would be baffled by their primitive backup systems, physical switches, mechanical gauges, and hydraulic controls that could operate without a single computer. What they'd never understand was that humanity had learned long ago not to trust any single point of failure. Tactical, status report, Morrison commanded, turning to face Lieutenant Commander James Chen's station. All defensive systems nominal, sir. Shield harmonics are randomizing on schedule, and our sensor ghost protocols are running at full efficiency. Chen's station resembled a mix between a modern combat system and an ancient pipe organ, with manual overrides for every automated system. The Federation's going to have one hell of a time getting a lock on us. The bridge crew shared knowing looks. They'd spent 3 years training for this moment, learning not just their primary roles but cross-training in multiple positions, another inefficiency that the Federation's AI-driven ships would never comprehend. When a crisis hit, every crew member could step into multiple roles, creating a redundancy that no algorithm could match. Communications, how's our Babel fish doing? Morrison asked, using the crew's nickname for their revolutionary universal translator. Lieutenant Diana Williams grinned at her station. Better than expected, sir. We're not just picking up their standard frequencies, we're detecting what they think are encrypted channels. Turns out their unbreakable codes are based on mathematical principles we surpassed while trying to figure out what our cats are really thinking. A quiet chuckle rippled through the bridge. Humor, another human element that Federation ships lacked. Studies had shown that crews who could laugh together fought better together, found creative solutions faster, and maintained morale under pressure. The Federation saw emotion as a weakness. Humanity had learned to make it a strength. Morrison settled into his command chair, feeling the subtle embrace of its inertial dampeners. Unlike Federation captains who interfaced directly with their ship's AIs, he preferred the traditional method: human senses, gut instinct, and years of experience interpreting the subtle cues of his ship and crew. Navigation. Plot our course for the Federation's diplomatic checkpoint, he ordered. Let's show them what humanity can do. Lieutenant Michael O'Connor's hands moved across his console with practiced precision. Course plotted, sir. Our new drive system is purring like a kitten that breaks about 16 laws of physics. Morrison stood, straightening his uniform. Around him, 60 of Earth's finest continued their work with quiet efficiency. Each of them had been chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to think creatively, to improvise, to see solutions where others saw only problems. The Federation believed in perfect optimization. Humanity believed in the perfect blend of chaos and control. Ladies and gentlemen, Morrison addressed his crew. What we do here today will change the course of human history. The Federation thinks they've got us figured out. They think we're predictable, primitive, limited by their understanding of what's possible." He smiled, the expression holding both pride and determination. "Let's go show them just how wrong they are." The Prometheus's engines hummed to life, their revolutionary design defying conventional physics in ways that would give Federation scientists nightmares. As they prepared to make their presence known to the galaxy at large, Morrison couldn't help but think that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their ability to dream beyond the possible and make those dreams reality. The Federation diplomatic vessel Eternal Harmony emerged from quantum space like a crystal swan gliding across still water. Its design epitomized everything the Federation valued: mathematical perfection, optimal efficiency, and absolute predictability. The ship's commander, designated Harmony 12, had calculated a 99.998% chance of successfully intimidating these upstart humans back into their assigned development path. Those calculations lasted exactly 3 seconds after detecting the Prometheus. "Impossible," Harmony 12 transmitted to its crew of technical specialists. "The human vessel is generating energy signatures that violate conservation of energy principles." The Eternal Harmony sensors probed the approaching Earth ship, their quantum precision beams seeking to categorize and classify every aspect of the vessel. But the Prometheus seemed to defy classification itself. One moment the sensors reported a standard metallic hull, the next something that appeared to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. "Warning," the ship's AI announced, its perfect harmonics showing the first signs of distortion. "Human vessel is executing a maneuver that exceeds known physical limitations." The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the Prometheus simply vanished, not through any recognized form of cloaking technology or dimensional shifting, but through what appeared to be a localized violation of cause and effect. Before Harmony 12 could complete its analysis, the impossible happened. The Prometheus reappeared inside their defensive screen, a feat that should have required more energy than a star produces in a day. "Eternal Harmony, this is Captain Jack Morrison of the Earth battleship Prometheus." The human's voice carried an emotion that the Federation crew's translators struggled to identify. Was it amusement? "Let's talk about rewriting the rules of engagement." Harmony 12 initiated its diplomatic protocols, preparing to deliver a carefully crafted speech about the Federation's technological superiority. The words died in its quantum processors as the Prometheus did something that defied every known law of physics and common sense. The Earth ship caught the Eternal Harmony's most sophisticated scanning beams and began to play with them. The energy patterns twisted, reformed, and suddenly projected themselves across space in a dazzling display that spelled out "hello" in 50 different Federation languages. "Impossible," one of the Kandraxian scientists whispered. "They're treating our quantum scanners like children's toys." Captain Morrison's voice came through again, carrying that same undefinable tone. "We figured you'd try to scan us. Thought we'd make it interesting. By the way, your quantum encryption. Might want to upgrade that. We cracked it about 10 minutes ago. Nice try, though. Really elegant mathematics. Just a bit predictable." Harmony 12 experienced something unprecedented in its centuries of operation: uncertainty. Its perfect calculations were failing, its predictions proving worse than useless against human ingenuity. The ship's eye watched helplessly as the Prometheus began demonstrating capabilities that shouldn't exist. The Earth ship's hull rippled with what appeared to be localized time distortions. Its weapon ports, if they were weapon ports, the sensors couldn't decide, seemed to shift position randomly. Even its size appeared to fluctuate, as if the vessel existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "We could have approached in silence," Morrison continued, his voice now carrying a more serious tone. "Could have hidden our capabilities, played by your rules. But humanity has a message for the Federation, and we believe in making a proper introduction." As if to emphasize his point, the Prometheus executed a series of maneuvers that had Harmony 12's probability engines shutting down in protest. The Earth ship danced through space like a leaf in the wind, each movement simultaneously graceful and impossible. Your Federation has spent 10,000 cycles perfecting what you already know, Morrison said. Humanity, we've spent our history asking what if, and now we're ready to share those questions and our answers with the galaxy. The Eternal Harmony's crew watched in growing amazement as their sensors detected something new, smaller Earth vessels, appearing from what seemed to be fold space pockets throughout the sector. Each one demonstrated capabilities that shattered Federation paradigms in unique ways. Harmony 12 did something it had never done before. It improvised. Captain Morrison. The AI transmitted, its perfect harmonics replaced by something almost like respect. The Federation would like to hear more about these questions of yours. Morrison's smile was audible in his response. That's exactly what we were hoping to hear. The Federation's High Command Center buzzed with frenzied activity as reports flooded in from across controlled space. High Admiral Zigzith's metallic features reflected the chaos of emergency holographic displays surrounding him, each one bringing news more disturbing than the last. Impossible, he muttered, his vocalization crystals crackling with strain. The Prometheus cannot be in 3 sectors simultaneously. It isn't. Controller Val 247 reported, neural networks processing data at maximum capacity. Our sensors confirm the original vessel remains near the diplomatic checkpoint. These other signatures, they're different ships entirely. Zixith's cooling systems struggled to maintain optimal temperature as the implications became clear. How many? We've confirmed 27 distinct Earth vessels so far, Val 247 responded. But their sensor masking capabilities make exact counts impossible. There could be hundreds. The strategic display updated, showing the positions of known human ships. They weren't clustered for attack or defense. Instead, they were spread throughout Federation space in what appeared to be a random pattern, until Zigzith's tactical processors recognized it. It's a web, he announced, his perfect posture faltering. While we focused on the Prometheus, they positioned themselves at key diplomatic and cultural centers throughout our territory. Aboard the Prometheus, Captain Morrison watched his own strategic display with quiet satisfaction. Lieutenant Williams's communication station was alive with encrypted transmissions from Earth's hidden fleet. Sir, Ambassador Chen reports successful first contact with the Candraxian High Council, Williams reported, unable to hide her grin. They're particularly interested in our medical technology. Apparently, our primitive approach to combining synthetic and organic systems is revolutionary to them. Morrison nodded, remembering the countless simulations and war games that had led to this strategy. The Federation had expected brute force or technological intimidation. Instead, humanity had opted for something far more subtle, genuine connection. Report from the Jakarta. Lieutenant Commander Chen added from Tactical. They've made contact with the Krell warrior caste. The Krell are laughing, sir. Apparently, they've never encountered a species that treated combat as an art form before. Our martial arts demonstrations are causing quite a stir. Even as the reports continued, the Prometheus maintained its position near the Eternal Harmony, a constant reminder of Earth's technological capabilities. But that was just the surface game. The real chess match was being played on a much deeper level. Sir, Rodriguez called from engineering. The Federation's trying to analyze our propulsion signature again. Permission to give them something new to think about. Morrison smiled. Make it interesting, Lieutenant. The Prometheus's quantum foam drives shifted configuration, adopting one of their countless possible arrangements. On the Federation sensors, it would appear as if the ship had suddenly started operating on entirely different physical principles. Message from the Sydney, Williams reported. They've made contact with the Nexus Archive controllers, share our complete works of science fiction literature as a cultural exchange. The archivists are apparently in a state of philosophical crisis. Morrison could imagine it. The Federation's carefully catalogued knowledge, all neatly categorized and contained, suddenly confronted with humanity's endless capacity to imagine new possibilities. Jules Verne, Isaac Asimov, Octavia Butler, generations of human dreamers whose wild ideas had shaped their species' drive to explore and innovate. The Federation's dispatched their primary battle fleet, Chen reported calmly. 30 capital ships, approaching from Sector 7. Right on schedule, Morrison noted. Williams signaled the Moscow and Beijing. Time for Phase 2. As the orders went out, Morrison reflected on the beauty of their strategy. The Federation saw power in unity, in everyone following the same optimal path. Humanity's strength lay in diversity, in approaching problems from countless different angles simultaneously. "Sir," Williams called out, excitement in her voice, "we're receiving transmissions from 17 different Federation member worlds. They're requesting direct diplomatic contact, bypassing the Federation Council entirely." Morrison stood, straightening his uniform. The Federation's mighty warfleet was about to discover they were deploying overwhelming force against an enemy that had already won without firing a shot, not through superior technology or military might, but through humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to make genuine connections and share new ways of thinking. "Send to all Earth vessels," he ordered. "Operation Trojan Horse is proceeding as planned. Remember, we're not here to conquer or destroy. We're here to remind the galaxy how to dream." The Federation Council chamber had never witnessed such disorder. Species that had maintained perfect diplomatic harmony for centuries were now arguing openly, their carefully regulated behaviors crumbling in the face of humanity's influence. "The Krell Dominion formally withdraws from the Federation Military Compact," announced War Chief Hexar, his scales shifting through patterns that hadn't been seen in 1,000 cycles. "We have witnessed the humans' approach to combat. Their martial arts aren't just fighting techniques. They're philosophical systems that turn weakness into strength. This is what we've been missing." High Admiral Zigzith's metallic frame vibrated with barely contained distress frequencies. "The humans are primitive. Their techniques are inefficient, their technology chaotic, their entire approach defies logical progression." "Perhaps," countered First Speaker Lyra of the Candraxians, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with excitement. "That is exactly why they surpassed us. Their medical technologies alone." She gestured to her arm, where a human-designed neural interface merged seamlessly with her biological systems. "They don't just combine synthetic and organic components. They create true symbiosis. Our pursuit of pure efficiency blinded us to entire realms of possibility." Aboard the Prometheus, Captain Morrison watched the Council's proceedings through their no longer secure feeds. Lieutenant Williams had routed the transmission to the main view screen, where the crew observed history unfolding. "Sir," Rodriguez called from engineering, "the Axoni just attempted to access our computer core again. Their AI probes are getting creative." She smiled, almost human in their approach. Morrison nodded. "Let them look. Each failed attempt teaches them something new about thinking outside their rigid parameters." The view screen showed more delegations rising to address the Council. The Nexus archivists, their crystalline forms reflecting rainbow patterns, spoke next. "We have reviewed the human cultural database they designated as science fiction," the chief archivist announced. "These aren't mere entertainment files. They're thought experiments, possibility engines, countless potential futures, technologies, and social systems, all explored through narrative. Our own archives, in comparison, contain only what is known and proven. We've been cataloging the past while humans imagine the future." The chamber erupted again as the synthetic collective representatives interfaced with the central systems. Their analysis scrolled across floating displays. Humanity's greatest achievements had often stemmed from what the Federation would consider failures. Their space program had advanced through disasters and near misses. Their medical breakthroughs frequently came from studying diseases. Even their entertainment technology had evolved through format wars and competing standards. "Message from the Beijing, sir," Williams reported. "They've successfully demonstrated our adaptive shielding technology to the Hegemony Defense Force. The Hegemony's entire strategic doctrine was based on their supposedly unblockable phase cannons." "Let me guess," Morrison replied. "Our primitive habit of building redundant systems with multiple fallback options proved superior to their perfectly optimized single solution." "Yes, sir." Their admiral actually laughed. First time in recorded history, apparently. The council chamber feed showed more delegations breaking ranks. The quantum communion, masters of predictive mathematics, had run probability simulations incorporating human chaos theory. The results had shattered their millennium-old models of reality. "Federation warships approaching, sir," Chen reported from Tactical. "But their formation is different. They're trying to copy our adaptive positioning protocols." Morrison allowed himself a small smile. "Not very successfully, I imagine. Hard to break the habit of perfection." "Sir," Williams interrupted, "priority message from the Sydney. They've made contact with the Federation's outer colonies. Apparently, some of them have been secretly experimenting with human-style innovation for decades. They're calling themselves the Free Development Worlds now." The view screen showed the council chamber descending further into chaos as this news broke. Species that had suppressed their unique characteristics in pursuit of Federation unity were remembering their own paths, their own ways of viewing the universe. "They're not just adopting our technology," Morrison observed. "They're remembering who they used to be, before the Federation's optimization protocols standardized everything." The Prometheus's sensors detected more ships arriving in system. Not Federation vessels, but representatives from member worlds seeking direct contact with Earth. Each brought their own traditions, their own innovations, their own dreams that had been buried under millennia of enforced efficiency. Humanity hadn't just broken the Federation's unity. They had reminded the galaxy that true strength lies in diversity, in the beautiful chaos of multiple approaches working together. The revolution wasn't just technological. It was cultural, philosophical, and utterly unstoppable. The Federation's premier technology analysis station, DeepMind 9, had never encountered such chaos. Chief Analyst Vex 427 of the Axoni stood surrounded by holographic displays showing the latest scans of the Prometheus, each revealing layers of complexity that defied conventional understanding. "Observe," Vex 427 said to the assembled xenotechnologists, "their cooling systems struggling to maintain optimal temperature. The humans haven't built a perfect system. They've built thousands of imperfect systems that work together in ways we never considered possible." The main display showed the Prometheus's reactor core, a testament to human ingenuity that bordered on madness. Where Federation ships used single, perfectly optimized power sources, the human vessel incorporated multiple systems that should have been incompatible. Their primary reactor, a quantum communion scientist noted, can apparently process anything containing energy. Traditional antimatter, quantum foam, dark matter extraction, and is that a coffee maker integrated into the auxiliary power grid? Affirmative. Vex 427 replied, vocal crystals vibrating with distress. According to decoded maintenance logs, it began as an engineer's joke. They discovered that the thermal and chemical energy from their beverage preparation could be harnessed by their adaptive power systems. Instead of removing this inefficiency, they improved it. Aboard the Prometheus, Lieutenant Rodriguez was giving her engineering team a very different kind of briefing. "Remember," she said, patting the brass handrail that doubled as a power conduit, "the Federation thinks in straight lines. We think in circles, spirals, and sometimes pretzel shapes if that's what works." Her team was demonstrating this philosophy in real time, rerouting power systems to adapt to the Federation's latest scanning attempts. Where alien ships would have dedicated systems for specific functions, the Prometheus's infrastructure was more like a living organism, able to repurpose any system for nearly any function. "Sir," Rodriguez reported to Morrison over the comm, "they're trying to analyze our backup systems again. Permission to show them something interesting. Morrison's voice carried a hint of amusement. Make it educational, Lieutenant. Rodriguez grinned at her team. Initiate Protocol Rube Goldberg. The Prometheus's systems began a cascade of deliberate failures and recoveries that would give any Federation engineer a nervous breakdown. As primary systems went offline, backup systems engaged in ways that defied prediction. When those failed, mechanical systems took over. When those were compromised, chemical reactions bridged the gaps. The ship didn't just survive, it thrived on chaos. In the DeepMind 9 analysis chamber, alarms blared as the Prometheus's power signature transformed yet again. Impossible, a hegemony analyst whispered. They're using their shield harmonics to power their sensors, their weapon systems to augment their shields, and their communication array is somehow improving their targeting efficiency. Every system is connected to every other system in ways that violate basic engineering principles. VEX 427 launched another scanning probe, desperate to understand. Their technology isn't advancing along any recognized development path. It's as if they took every failed experiment, every discarded theory, every inefficient approach, and found ways to make them work together. The holographic displays showed the Prometheus's structural design, a maze of redundant systems and backup protocols that seemed to mock the Federation's pursuit of perfection. Physical controls backed up digital systems. Mechanical linkages provided alternatives to power-dependent solutions. Even the ship's hull incorporated materials that shouldn't have been compatible but somehow strengthened each other. Look at their computer systems, a synthetic collective representative noted, their artificial neurons firing in patterns of confusion. They're not just running parallel processors, they're intentionally introducing controlled chaos into their calculations. They've turned computational errors into a feature rather than a flaw. The Prometheus's latest sensor readings appeared, showing how the ship had reconfigured itself yet again. Where Federation vessels strove for perfect efficiency in a single configuration, the human ship was constantly changing, adapting, evolving. They're not trying to achieve perfection, VEX 427 realized, vocal crystals resonating with sudden understanding. They're embracing imperfection as a strength. Every flaw is an opportunity, every limitation a challenge to overcome. As if to emphasize this point, the Prometheus executed another impossible maneuver, its systems working together in ways that no simulation could have predicted. The ship wasn't just a vessel, it was a testament to humanity's greatest strength, the ability to take chaos and turn it into art. DeepMind 9's primary AI spoke for the first time in the analysis, its perfect logical patterns showing signs of transformation. Perhaps, it said, we have been pursuing the wrong kind of perfection all along. The Prometheus's observation deck offered a stunning view of the unfolding revolution. Captain Morrison stood at the viewport, watching as ships from dozens of Federation worlds maneuvered around his vessel, each one attempting to incorporate human innovations in their own unique way. Sir, Lieutenant Williams called from her portable comm station. The Krill are requesting permission to send another delegation. Apparently, their first group had what they're calling a spiritual awakening during the martial arts demonstration. Morrison nodded, remembering how the warrior species had reacted when shown Earth's combat traditions. The idea that strength could flow like water, that victory could come through yielding rather than forcing, had shaken their military doctrine to its core. The Axoni research vessel is requesting access to our historical database again, Williams continued, unable to hide her smile. Specifically, they want to study something called jazz improvisation. Their exact words were, "We must understand how chaos becomes harmony." Throughout Federation space, the transformation was accelerating. The Candraxian bioships were the first to visibly change, their organic hulls pulsing with new patterns as they incorporated human medical concepts. Where they once sought perfect biological optimization, they now explored the beautiful unpredictability of hybrid systems. Message from DeepMind 9. Lieutenant Commander Chen reported from Tactical. Their eye has started, dreaming. They're requesting emergency consultations with our computer scientists. Apparently, they found our old papers on neural network randomization and decided to experiment. Morrison turned from the viewport to watch his crew managing the cascade of requests and revelations. Each member demonstrated exactly what made humanity special: the ability to adapt, to think creatively, to find solutions in unexpected places. The quantum communion is broadcasting on all frequencies, Williams announced. They've applied human chaos theory to their predictive models. The results. She paused, double-checking her readings. They're claiming it's opened up whole new branches of mathematics. Something about using uncertainty as a computational tool. Through the viewport, Morrison watched a Federation warship attempting to copy the Prometheus's adaptive shield configurations. Their efforts were imperfect, but that was exactly the point. They were learning to embrace imperfection as a path to greater innovation. "Sir," Rodriguez called from engineering, where she was supervising yet another demonstration for visiting alien technicians. The synthetic collective just had what they're calling a collective epiphany. They're restructuring their entire network to include randomization protocols. Said something about perfect logic being perfectly predictable. The revolution wasn't just technological. Reports flooded in from across Federation space as species began rediscovering their own buried traditions of innovation and creativity. The hegemony's artists, long restricted to mathematically perfect forms, were experimenting with abstract expression. The Nexus archives were being reorganized to include speculative knowledge alongside proven facts. Federation Council is in emergency session, Williams reported. The Axoni leadership is trying to maintain control, but, "Sir, you should see this." The main view screen activated, showing the council chamber. An Axoni representative was arguing for maintaining their traditional approach when a junior member of their own species interrupted, something unprecedented in their history. "We were wrong," the junior Axoni declared, their vocal crystals resonating with new harmonics. "Our pursuit of perfect efficiency led us to a perfect dead end. The humans haven't just shown us new technology. They've shown us new ways of thinking." Morrison watched as more representatives stood, each speaking of how human ideas had transformed their understanding. The Krell spoke of finding strength in flexibility. The Kandraxians described the beauty of controlled mutation. The synthetic collective shared their experiences, with induced random processes improving their problem-solving capabilities. "Sir," Williams said softly, "we're receiving thousands of messages from individual Federation citizens. They're sharing their own innovations, ideas they'd kept hidden because they weren't optimal enough. It's like humanity gave them permission to dream again." Morrison felt the weight of the moment. They had come prepared for conflict, but had instead sparked a revolution of thought. The Federation's perfect unity was dissolving, but something far more valuable was taking its place: a celebration of diversity, creativity, and the beautiful chaos of multiple approaches working together. "Send to all Earth ships," he ordered, watching another Federation vessel successfully complete its first adaptive maneuver. "Phase 3 is complete. The revolution isn't just succeeding, it's evolving beyond our predictions, just as it should." The final meeting of the old Federation Council began not with ceremony, but with laughter. High Admiral Zixith, his metallic frame now adorned with decidedly non-regulation human artistic modifications, stood before the assembled representatives with what could only be described as a smile, an expression that would have been unthinkable mere weeks ago. "For 10,000 cycles," he began, vocal crystals harmonizing in a new way, "we pursued perfection. We believed that unity meant uniformity, that progress meant following the single optimal path." He paused, his newly installed emotional processors allowing him to appreciate the irony. "We could not have been more wonderfully wrong." The chamber, once a monument to rigid order, now buzzed with diverse energy. Krell warriors demonstrated flowing martial arts movements to synthetic collective observers. Kandraxian scientists excitedly shared hybrid biotechnology designs with hegemony engineers. The very air seemed alive with possibility. Aboard the Prometheus, Captain Morrison watched the proceedings with his command crew. The ship had been transformed into something beyond its original design, not through upgrades, but through the incorporation of alien innovations freely shared by their new allies. Every species had contributed something unique, creating a vessel that embodied the principle of strength through diversity. "Sir," Lieutenant Williams reported from communications, her station now augmented with quantum communion probability crystals, "We're receiving the final tallies." The vote was unanimous. The Federation is officially dissolving, and the Galactic Cooperative is being born. Morrison nodded, remembering the long path that had brought them here. What had started as a demonstration of human capability had evolved into something far more profound, a revolution not of power, but of thought itself. "Message from Deep Mine 9, Lieutenant Commander Chen announced, his tactical display now incorporating Krell intuitive combat algorithms. Their AI network has successfully integrated human creativity protocols. They're calling it digital evolution through controlled chaos. Apparently, they've solved problems that have stumped them for centuries. The Federation's former optimization protocols were limiting them," Rodriguez added from engineering, where she was working with a team of mixed species on yet another impossible innovation. They were so focused on finding the perfect solution, they'd never considered that perfection might be the enemy of progress. The main view screen showed the council chamber as Zixith continued his speech. "The humans did not conquer us with superior force. They did not overwhelm us with advanced technology. Instead, they showed us something we had forgotten: the power of dreaming, of taking risks, of embracing the beautiful chaos of multiple paths forward." Around the Prometheus, ships of every Federation species maneuvered in formations that would have been deemed illogical weeks ago. Each vessel now incorporated elements of human design philosophy, but interpreted through their own unique cultural lens. The result was a fleet that celebrated differences rather than enforcing conformity. "Final reports coming in from Earth's diplomatic fleet," Williams said, her voice filled with pride. "Every major species has signed the cooperative charter. The key provision: progress through diversity, strength through adaptation." Morrison stood, addressing his crew. "When we started this mission, some feared we would be revealing our greatest vulnerabilities to potential enemies. Instead, we shared our greatest strength, our ability to learn from everyone, to adapt anything useful, to turn apparent weakness into unexpected advantage." The view screen showed the signing ceremony as Zixith completed his speech. "And so, we do not mourn the Federation's passing. We celebrate the birth of something greater. The humans reminded us that the universe is too vast, too wonderful, too full of possibilities to be confined to a single path." The Prometheus's sensors detected ships emerging from quantum space, vessels from the furthest reaches of known space, drawn by the promise of this new way of thinking. Each brought their own innovations, their own dreams, their own unique perspectives to add to the growing tapestry of galactic civilization. "Send to all Earth vessels," Morrison ordered, watching as the old Federation truly transformed into something new. Mission accomplished. But in many ways, we're just getting started. The real adventure begins now. As if in response, the ships of the newly formed Galactic Cooperative executed a synchronized maneuver that combined the precision of Federation protocols with the adaptability of human innovation. Against the backdrop of space, they formed a pattern that seemed to embody their new philosophy, a perfect union of order and chaos, tradition and innovation, unity and diversity. The age of enforced perfection was over. The age of beautiful imperfection had begun.